working for the largest semiconductor manufacturer and developer in Europe called NXP Semiconductors. I have also had 10 years with Microsoft, Qualcomm, Siemens, and a few other stories. I'm also a member of board of directors, and I have been actually a board of director chair for a publicly listed company. Now, my today's assignment is mostly helping CISOs to succeed, and I'm doing it in the context of Hoax Hunt. Hoax Hunt that I have been kind of advising since the very beginning of the existence, them being, on my opinion, and I believe it's pretty objective opinion as well, the best in the world at the moment for changing the end user behaviors to be much more cyber secure. You get some kind of testimonies here, but the nice thing is, for example, as I said, Qualcomm is winning this year's CISO awards. AES did that last year with the help of ours, and there was a year and a between when DocuSign won it together with us. So that's about the Hoax Hunt mostly. Let me move on into the board reporting, which is the topic of today's presentation and discussion. This presentation is of course partially anonymized, but I basically had the biggest board experience with the board of directors of NXP Semiconductors, where I was reporting every quarter to the board of directors. Prior to that, I also actually did a report in the C-level at Nokia. So that's kind of my perspective to the topic. And then maybe the first question for the people who haven't ever been reporting to the board is that how the heck do you start? And at least I had that sort of question in 2014 when I had never been really reporting the board of directors. And this was actually the first one-slider or similar sort of slide that I exposed first with the C-level. Before I get in front of the board, I wanted to meet each and every C-level leader in the company, and as I was also new with the company, I wanted to understand actually that how the management wants the company to be perceived from the security perspective. I wanted to understand also that how do they want to treat the people, how do they want people to feel about it, just to have some sort of kind of opening for the conversation that what does it look like when I start to be the CISO for this company, when I start to collect evidence that one day I will be reporting to the board of directors. It was pretty good conversation opening, but the most important thing I think in those conversations was actually not my topic of security, but it was much more about me asking the C-level folks that, so what are your targets? What do you specifically actually struggle with when you are heading the sales, heading the marketing, heading the operations or so? Starting to immediately actually getting tuned to the channel of what does business need, what are the business drivers, and then actually trying to understand that what can security do for them to help them to be even more successful. My first aim in a company that had kind of three distinct environments in front of it, without going to the details of them, they were quite different kind of environments. I thought that I'm going to take a kind of NIST 800 model, ISO 27000 model, and a few other models, and I'm going to simplify it to these sort of kind of domains only, security domains only, and then I'm going to give this sort of kind of traffic light color coding reporting for them in one slide for the board of directors. I thought that I was smart because everyone knows what are the kind of traffic lights, and it should be pretty self-evidentary that we have difficult situation with environment one, and our monitoring skills were and capabilities were still really far apart what we were expected to have. When I exposed this prior to the board level meeting to the CFO, he had immediate feedback to me. Giving an artistic break here, you just think about it. Now it's not that interactive, but think about it. What would have been the CFO's response when he sees this sort of report? Is this kind of good enough? I got actually one word as a reply in an email, and that one word was shit. My only question was that, does this mean that this is the shit, or is this shit, or is it something else? I was totally kind of puzzled that what the heck, no real guidance, no nothing. I just needed to be kind of keep on wandering in the dark, and think about it. So what could it look like if this is what I just proposed? Total shit, which was my interpretation of that one word. Ended up, of course, having lots of conversations with my superior and a few other C-level folks to understand the expectations. And the end result was that actually I decided not to be reporting yet the status in the first meeting with the board of directors, but I was creating some slide like this, where I on a high level gave out that what are our kind of high level targets. Our targets will be to train our people to be the best in preventing, detecting, and responding to the cybersecurity threats. Talking about the people in general, I highlighted that our monitoring capabilities really needs to be much better, and we need to actually start to invest in the proactive technologies and processes in this company. The intention was not so much about the security content, but it was actually to create high-level slide to enable conversation. I had 15 people in the room, some of which being CEOs, some of it being CFOs, and that caliber of people who don't on a daily basis speak about cyber. They don't have the vocabulary. They don't actually know what to expect. They speak about the businesses, and I think that this worked quite well. When this was presented, it spun off lots of good conversations, lots of good kind of questions, and I gradually started in that first session to understand that what are the expectations to me in this sort of reporting. So I started to actually collect mental marks that what should I be kind of presenting next time. When I went there next time, I was able to create a model that lasted for the next 4 years. It had some flaws that I'm going to come into later, but actually the model that I started in the beginning was to have a one slider where we had kind of this sort of easy reporting based on the CMMI maturity metrics. The numbers obviously here are not the numbers that they originally were, but similar sort of kind of these are the placeholders for the places that the actual report had. And then so we actually had the current state, we had the at some stage, of course, where we used to be, and then what were our targets in the area of proactive, detective, and reactive areas. And the thing in here is that some of you may think that did I select all the NIST 800 controls? That would have been kind of boiling the ocean. I selected somewhere between 10 to 15 control domains, which I considered to be the most important for establishing the cybersecurity. I selected those based on my Nokia learnings and understanding that what kind of really matters of making the company more secure. One that was actually a mistake. I should have used Deloitte or some other organization which was objective to myself, giving this sort of recommendation that what are the most important and impactful control domains that I should be reporting about. Later on, after a few years, it actually became a bit problematic topic for me to explain that how did I came just myself into the result of selecting these domains. It was obviously not just this one slider that I presented, but beyond of this, there was of course multiple other slides per each and every session that we had with storylines that actually linked the story back to the businesses. We were not mostly talking about the technological implementation of something, but actually about the business risk, for example, in the factories or in the R&D and innovation in the longer run. And then what does it mean if you don't have certain kind of controls in place? So it was mostly about business line conversation related to the security topics.
Petri, before you go on,
Yep.
we had a couple of questions come in.
Okay.
One related to you just mentioned that you weren't using all of NIST obviously because you didn't want to boil the ocean. But what 10 controls did you look at, or do you personally recommend looking at
Mm.
first potentially?
Yeah, let me take that a bit further away. I think that I'm going to partially answer it in my presentation
Oh, okay.
here, and then I don't have actually a comprehensive answer there in this presentation, but let me elaborate it a bit more, and then actually the last slide is also giving you an opportunity of having one-on-one if you want to have that sort of event with me where I'm able to go much more deeper.
Sure, that's perfect. We did have one other question kind of related to the aesthetics of the process you have here. How did you determine what color to use at this early stage?
Okay, okay. Uh, Depending, of course, that how do you ask that? But let's just say that first of all, these colors themselves were kind of selected from the color palette of the company. But if you are asking actually the traffic light colors, that how do you define that? Together with the CIO who used to be my lead back then there, we defined actually that what was our kind of long-term target, and we made some sort of estimations that how many years will it take to gain access, or sorry, no, to get to that end result. And based on that, we just made a kind of our own judgment of the colors. I cannot remember the exact criteria, but we discussed about that quite lengthy.
Perfect. Thank you. Petri, appreciate it.
But very human process, and a process of someone who has already been in the industry for a long period of time. At this stage, I actually I didn't mention, but prior to Nokia career, I was one of the establishing member of the Helsinki Cybersecurity Investigations Department in the Policy of Helsinki. So I already had like 20 years underneath of my belt before this exercise. Good. A question that many people would be also asking, that what are the usual topics to discuss in the board of directors? And I'm not going to go through each and every one of these guys with you today here, but these are the kind of the 11 topic domains that were discussed over the years. And the most consistent ones actually that was discussed most were these three ones that were just kind of cycled here. The news cycle is obvious thing. Before you get in front of the board, you should obviously be reading the cybersecurity news for the, let's say, previous month extremely well, and simultaneously studying actually that the board members, that where are they coming from, which industries, and have they been impacted, because most probably the C-level who are sitting in the board of directors will have some exposure to some real life incidents that they want to discuss and went out and get your expert opinion about. So it is actually quite tedious thing to understand all of that, and if you don't do that extremely well, you will not necessarily have extremely good credibility in front of them. Then, of course, the number 6, incidents. When you have something big, as all the large companies every now and then do have, the root cause analysis is, of course, extremely important. Before moving to the human firewall type of topic, let me just highlight that many of the a bit less experienced folks would think that it would be a great place to ask more money from the board of directors. But if you would do that actually in a board of directors, you will be stepping to the toes of the CEO. Board of directors is a function who is superior to CEO, and it is CEO who makes the calls of all the operational topics within the company, including the budgets. If you would be directly asking more money from the board of directors, you would be basically saying that I don't trust on my CEO, and that might be quite a short career for you in that company then. So that's actually very, very important, in my opinion, to understand from the success point of view. Anyway, the last point that I want to make here is the kind of the human firewall crowdsourced intrusion detection capabilities that, of course, Hoxhunt is very damn good at, but it's not the reason why I'm mentioning it. I'm mentioning it from the context point of view that when you have a room full of C-level folks who are not speaking cyber as their native language, they still have all ended up in that position by managing large teams, large organizations, i.e. they understand human beings and the human behavior usually quite well. So I consider actually the human part and people part of cybersecurity to be a great bridge or conduit of opening the conversation in a manner that the audience in that room feels that they know about this topic. They have the confidence of participating into the conversation, which is really important for, again, creating the trust between you and the audience, but also making them more active in that conversation. They are, at the end of the day, similar sort of people as we all are. We are afraid that someone else considers us stupid or kind of not knowing about the topic. So you need to help them to speak the same language as you are doing. And over there, in my opinion, the human part is actually really, really handy. Anyway, if you have any questions about any of these 11 topics here, happy to answer later. What have I learned more about this process? What would I do differently today? I think that what I already actually used in that process is that I started at some stage to use analogies of explaining that what a cybersecurity actually is. And I have always liked cybersecurity to be something that is very analogical to the human health. We CISOs are, in my opinion, the chief doctors for cyber health of a company, and that's why talking about the human health as an analogical story conveying message, it's just kind of really handy because all the people understand usually that. So anyway, when you are kind of talking about the company, it, on my opinion, starts from the investment level. How much do you want to invest into the cybersecurity, considering the area that you are currently kind of operating at from the business point of view? It's a bit like your DNA. It's given because your business domain and business kind of model is given. Then it's about the life choices to keep you healthy. Are you eating well? Are you sporting? Are you sleeping well? And so on. That's the capability maturity model that I already kind of showed you. Then there's the daily habits of preventing the diseases, personal hygiene, and that sort of things. Those are the selected KPIs that you are actually having a deeper focus than the capability model is having. I actually, after those 4 years that we used the capability model as the main conduit of explaining how we are advancing, we started to introduce kind of KPI level focus areas. I'm soon going to show you one example out of them. And then, of course, the incidents. This is, on my opinion, where the companies and CISOs many times goes wrong. They start to talk about the incidents and then they draw conclusions about the health of a patient based on the incidents. It's a bit like this, that you would be deciding that how healthy someone is if he has just contracted the flu or having some other disease. It is not usually giving the total picture of the patient. It is just kind of a bit random type of way of understanding that how is this patient here feeling. So I would be kind of using this sort of analogy right in the beginning to establish actually the storyline that what am I reporting here and why am I reporting it like I am. Then when we are talking about the capability model, I would be nowadays segmenting it, not necessarily so much about the proactive, detective, and responsive, but I would be starting to talk about the people, processes, and technology kind of topics as such. And then, as said, the KPIs. This is a bit kind of busy slide with lots of text. You can read it later on when you want to. But this slide actually has been made based on the Gartner model, where they are focusing into the outcome-driven metrics. This model here is actually written in a style that Gartner recommends you to do. And the whole ideology that Gartner is actually saying here is that you should be agreeing some sort of kind of protection level agreement with your C-level folks. And then measuring if you are capable of fulfilling that protection level consistently. When it comes to the social engineering awareness also, my kind of main success criteria are that have you been able to engage many of your people really reporting about the real and simulated attacks. In this slide here, I'm using actually the Hoxhan's global metrics that we are collecting from our people, where you can see that after 10 months or so, the reporting level is usually already going beyond of 60%, whereas the global average in these sort of solutions is lower than 20% based on the Verizon reports. Another thing that people are not actually in these reports talking too much at all is that when you train your people well, they will start to actually report out also real threats. The blue bars here actually is telling that when someone has been in the platform for 70 months, like 6 years plus, they are reporting 0.5 real attacks a month, something that kind of bypasses your filtering technologies. And that's, on my opinion, extremely important. You can, of course, not give absolute figure for the board of directors or C-level about the PLA of this, because there is so many other variables. But I think that if you give the PLA about the engagement rate, it will then actually reflect good results also in the real threat detection areas also. Yeah, that was my kind of last substance